Hi everyone, it's Lisa from DoodleDrawArt. I've had requests from Bradley, the Casanova family, and Allison and her family to draw Steve from Minecraft. So here we go. I'm referencing this picture that I found on the internet of Steve. I know it's not from the game, but it's a good picture to start with. And I found that making a perfect square can be tricky, and that a post-it note is exactly the right shape to work with. So I'm going to start with a square post-it, and I'm going to fold it in half twice to make a much smaller square. Now I'm going to use this square for the shape of Steve's head. I'm just going to trace around the edges. I can fix it up later, but it'll give me a good reference for some straight lines that are all the same length. Now, Steve's body is the same width as his head, so I'm unfolding the post-it once, and then I'm folding it back halfway. And I'm going to trace around the edges again. And since this is an action pose, Steve's body is a little bit twisted. Tracing around, and we won't really get much across the top there, but just until it touches his head. Now, for his arms and legs, we're going to fold the post-it until it's this shape. And we're going to use this basic shape. I'm just going to shorten up his body. It looks to me like it's too long. That's better. But we're going to use this basic shape for his arms and his legs. And so one of his legs is going off this way, and it's coming from underneath his body on a little bit of an angle. And his leg is not as long as this whole post-it, so I will stop before I get to the bottom. And the bottom of his leg is on a slight angle, where his foot meets the ground. Alright, second leg is going to go off towards, slightly out on an angle again. I'm just going to move it over. I think that's better. And because this leg's a little further away, I've just skinnied it up a little bit. And now I'm going to draw a diagonal here for his foot again. Now for his arms, we're using the same folded post-it. And this arm is starting off to the side, just sort of like his leg is. But the cool thing about Steve is that his arms do bend a little bit here, so we're just going to turn it on an angle after we draw the top piece of his arm. So now his arm is bent at the elbow just a little. Good. That looks good. Now we'll do the other arm, same idea. It's just touching on the corner of his torso. We'll go down a ways, and then we'll turn. That one needs to go down a bit further. That's better. Now I can touch it on two spots, back it up a little so I can trace right around the end. I think that's a good length for his arm. If you play Minecraft, you will know much better than I do exactly how long you want to make these. Now for the dimensions on his head, we're going to angle back and then straight down. So this is, of course, Steve is a cube. Everything in Minecraft is very square. And the same thing here, we're just going to make dimensions on his hands. So it's a big slanted diamond shape. And then we're going to go back towards his body, and then we're going to bring this up towards his body. And I'm just going to show the dimension of his body coming down along the back and a line sort of parallel to his original post-it arms. And then his sleeve comes across his bicep, straight, perpendicular across. Alright, and then his pants are perpendicular here and here, then they go down a little bit and over. That's going to be all blue. And then we'll look at his other arm, and we're going to just go Just trying to decide here. Decisions. I'm gonna move this a little bit. I feel like it's up too close to his head. So I'm just gonna put it out to the side a bit more. This is why we use pencil. You just never know when you're gonna change your mind about the shape of something. That's gonna be better. And then I can actually use my other lines as the dimensions from the back. That's good. Just clean this up a little bit and connect off the bottom of his hand. Good. Alright, so now we need three-dimensional legs. Just angle in, go parallel, and to the ground. And then his feet are going to be gray. And we'll show the three dimensions on this leg. And you'll notice that it's coming from this corner, but it's close in here, and then it gets further out at the bottom. I did the same thing on the other leg. It's just not exactly parallel, because there's some perspective there in the depth of the leg. Okay, well, we're ready for the hard part, which is getting all of the shapes of Steve's head perfect. So the pixels of his hair start pretty close to the top, and they right away go up for bangs, and then down on the other side. And then his eyes are roughly more close to the top of his head. Right in the middle of the square, I guess. And they're quite large rectangles. Work on these till you like them. And then his eyeballs are more towards the middle. And his nose takes up most of the space between his eyes. And his mouth is bigger than his nose, and also kind of a rectangle. Now I'm going to make it curvy, because this is a character of Steve. It's not the actual Minecraft game. And then his hair comes over there, up and down over his ear, and then to the back. Just give it a little more thickness there so I have room to color. Alright. Now we get to go over all these lines with our marker. I'm using a fine line marker because I want to be able to see all the details. Oh, of course, I forgot his eyebrows, so I've added those. And now tracing over everything that I've just done. I'm going to color his eyes right away with my black Sharpie. His eyeballs. Take your time with this. I'm going in time lapse because you've seen me do this once already with my pencil. Alright. Good. I think I got them all. Except for there's his sleeves. And now we'll be ready to erase all of those little sketch marks that are showing through. Okay, now becomes the fun part. We're going to color Steve. I've got two colors of blue, and I'm going to start making pixel squares all over his shirt. And I'm going to press really hard here and make all of these interesting textural pixel shapes. And then I'm going to go over it with another color, pressing hard and making more pixel shapes. And then I'm going to color in, once I choose the right color, all of the background of his shirt. Great. Now his pants. I've got darker shades of blue, doing the same thing, adding a few pixels, not as many on his pants, and then shading in the back of his pants, the background, and just simple gray for his shoes and simple brown for his hair, but I'll add a few pixely darker sections with black and dark brown. And now his skin, we're going to use browns for this, and we're going to fill in some pixels, little squares, and we're going to shade a little bit with a light touch, not too darkly. And we'll add some details with our Sharpie. Well, there you go. You can continue to refine this until you really like it, but that's how I draw Steve. from Minecraft, and I would love to see your Steve. So if you draw Steve and you're on Instagram, please post it up. Tag me in your picture so I can see it too. And please comment on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also like the video if you liked it. It makes me happy when people like my videos.